John and Emily seemed like the perfect couple until one day John vanished without a trace. And the horrifying truth about his disappearance shattered everything they knew. What dark secret was Emily hiding behind her smile? The chilling story of betrayal, control, and survival begins here. John and Emily's life together seemed like a dream to anyone who glanced their way. They lived in a quiet neighborhood where the streets were lined with neatly trimmed lawns and families enjoyed peaceful weekends. On the surface, their marriage looked perfect. John was known as a dedicated and hard-working man. He worked long hours at a local manufacturing plant and was always careful to support his family financially. Emily appeared to be the ideal wife, always polite to neighbors, involved in community events, and keeping their home spotless. Together, they projected the image of a happy couple, one that others envied and admired. But beneath this calm exterior, things were far from what they seemed. John's behavior started to change slowly over time. Those closest to him noticed he was no longer the lively, confident man they once knew. His smiles became rare, and there was a constant weariness in his eyes. He stopped attending social gatherings and rarely answered calls from friends. It was clear something was wrong, but no one could understand what was happening behind closed doors. John himself was trapped in a world that grew darker every day. Emily's influence in their home grew stronger. She became controlling and possessive, insisting on knowing where John was at all times. Small freedoms he once enjoyed were quietly taken away. At first, John thought these changes were just part of marriage, maybe even signs of Emily's love and concern. But soon, it became clear it was something more sinister. Emily isolated him from anyone who might question her or offer help. She discouraged his friendships and made him feel guilty for wanting to spend time away from home. Neighbors and acquaintances remained unaware of the silent suffering unfolding inside the house. Emily was skilled at hiding her true nature, always presenting a friendly smile to the outside world. She carefully crafted her image as a devoted wife, masking the coldness and cruelty that lurked beneath. John's increasing withdrawal went unnoticed or was dismissed as stress from work. But the reality was that John was losing control of his own life, caught in a web of manipulation and fear. Inside the home, Emily's actions grew more calculated. She demanded absolute obedience, controlling not just John's movements but also his decisions. His opinions were dismissed or ignored. The man who had once been confident and independent was now a shadow of himself. Despite this, John kept hoping things might improve, telling himself that love could overcome even the darkest moments. However, the strain was unbearable. The constant pressure, the hidden bruises, the whispered threats, these were the cracks beneath the perfect marriage mask. John's spirit was breaking, but no one saw the signs until it was almost too late. Emily's charm remained intact for those on the outside, keeping suspicion at bay. Her ability to deceive those around her was part of what made her dangerous. This hidden battle between control and freedom, love and fear, was the silent war being fought every day. John's desperate attempts to survive went unnoticed, buried beneath Emily's carefully constructed facade. The truth of their relationship was a far cry from the idyllic image that neighbors admired. It was the beginning of a dark story, one that would soon shatter the quiet calm of their community and reveal just how deep the evil could run behind a smiling face. The day John disappeared was sudden and shocking, yet somehow, it seemed to come without warning to those outside the house. One morning, John didn't show up for work. His co-workers called him repeatedly, but he didn't answer. At first, they assumed he was sick or dealing with a personal emergency. Emily told people that John had left early for a business trip and would be back soon. But no one at his job had heard about any travel plans. Days passed, and the concern around his absence grew. His phone went straight to voicemail, and his car remained parked in the driveway. Emily reported John missing to the police, her voice calm and steady, insisting she had no idea where he had gone. The authorities took the case seriously, launching a search that spanned the neighborhood and nearby areas. Flyers with John's photo were distributed, and detectives canvassed local businesses and friends. Yet, no one had seen him. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. This mysterious disappearance baffled everyone who knew the couple. Neighbors began to whisper, recalling odd incidents they had barely noticed before. Late at night, strange noises seemed to come from the house, muffled sounds that no one could explain. Some remembered seeing John with bruises on his arms and face, though they had never dared to ask about them. Others spoke of the sudden quiet that fell over the home in recent months. People started to suspect that the perfect marriage was not so perfect after all. Police interviews with Emily raised more questions than answers. She maintained her innocence, answering questions with practiced ease, but avoiding certain topics. Her calmness was unsettling. While some believed her story, others couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Investigators grew suspicious, especially as they uncovered inconsistencies in her statements. Financial records showed odd withdrawals and transfers, but Emily refused to explain them. John's friends, who had been shut out of his life, tried to come to terms with his disappearance. They struggled to understand why he had withdrawn so suddenly, and what had driven him away. Many feared the worst, but hoped he might still be alive somewhere, trapped or in need of help. Their worry turned into determination as they pushed the police for answers. Behind the scenes, Emily seemed to grow more distant and secretive. She rarely left the house and cut off contact with those who questioned her. The atmosphere around the couple's home turned colder, more tense. While the police followed every lead, the trail grew colder. No evidence of a struggle or forced entry was found. It was as if John had simply disappeared by his own will, but that idea did not fit with the clues uncovered. The mystery deepened when a neighbor, suspicious of the locked basement door that Emily kept hidden, mentioned it to the police. This tip became a turning point in the investigation. Officers were granted a warrant to search the house more thoroughly. What they found behind that basement wall would shock everyone and change the entire case forever. As the search continued, the community was left holding its breath. The quiet neighborhood had become a place of fear and suspicion. The perfect image of John and Emily's marriage was shattered, replaced by a growing sense of dread. The question on everyone's mind was no longer where John had gone, but what terrible fate might have befallen him. The truth was closer than anyone imagined. Buried deep beneath the surface of this seemingly ordinary home, the discovery of the hidden basement room changed everything. When the police finally gained access to the concealed door behind the basement wall, they were met with a chilling sight. The narrow chamber was filled with dirt and debris, barely large enough to hold a person curled up inside. The air inside was stale and heavy, and the faint smell of earth and decay lingered. Inside this grim space, investigators found personal items belonging to John: his watch, wallet, and a worn journal filled with frantic, desperate entries. The journal revealed a terrifying glimpse into John's final days before his disappearance. Pages were scrawled with notes about fear, control, and hopelessness. He wrote about feeling trapped, about Emily's growing cruelty, and his desperate attempts to find a way out. The entries grew more frantic as time went on, until they abruptly ended. It was clear John had been held captive in this small underground chamber, buried alive, cut off from the outside world. The police immediately launched a search for John in the chamber, but the grim reality was that he was not there. The dirt and debris had been carefully packed in, concealing the space so thoroughly that no one could have known. It became evident that Emily had planned this for some time. The room was designed to trap someone alive, leaving them to suffocate or perish underground. As investigators examined the scene, they uncovered more evidence of Emily's involvement. Fingerprints, tools used to seal the chamber, and traces of disturbed earth outside the house all pointed to her. The crime was premeditated, cold, and methodical. Emily had created a prison for her husband beneath their own home, a horrifying testament to the darkness behind her smiling exterior. The community was shaken to its core by the revelation. What had once been a quiet, respectable neighborhood now felt like the setting of a nightmare. Friends and family struggled to come to terms with the fact that John had been trapped beneath Emily's house, suffering in silence while the world looked the other way. The betrayal felt deeper and more personal because of how close to home it was. Forensic experts worked tirelessly to piece together the timeline of events. They estimated how long John had been confined, the conditions he had endured, and how Emily had managed to hide the evidence so effectively. It was a story of cruelty and survival, of a man buried alive by someone he once trusted. The thought alone sent chills through everyone involved. Meanwhile, Emily remained silent and composed, but her mask was beginning to slip. The weight of the evidence was overwhelming, and investigators were closing in on her motives and the full extent of her actions. The case was no longer just about John's disappearance, it was a dark puzzle of manipulation, control, and evil. This discovery sparked national attention. News outlets picked up the story, exposing the horror hidden behind a perfect suburban life. People were horrified that such a crime could happen in a place that seemed so safe and normal. The focus shifted to how Emily had kept the truth buried so well, how she had manipulated those around her, and what had driven her to commit such a monstrous act. The hidden basement chamber was a symbol of everything that had gone wrong. It was a reminder that appearances could be deceiving, that evil could hide in the most ordinary places. The community's shock was profound, but the search for justice had only just begun. The chilling discovery was the first step in unraveling a dark story no one would soon forget. As the investigation into John's disappearance deepened, disturbing details about Emily's life and motives began to emerge. Financial records revealed a shocking pattern. Emily had been quietly siphoning money from their joint accounts for months before John vanished. Large sums had been transferred to unknown accounts, and she had taken out multiple life insurance policies on John without his knowledge. It became clear that greed was a powerful driving force behind her actions. Detectives uncovered evidence that Emily had planned the entire scheme well in advance. She had studied how to conceal a crime, carefully preparing the hidden chamber in the basement. The ceiling of the room, the timing of John's disappearance, and the financial transactions all pointed to a calculated and ruthless plan. This was not a crime of passion or desperation, it was cold and deliberate. Friends and family who came forward painted a darker portrait of Emily than anyone had imagined. They spoke of subtle manipulations and controlling behavior that had escalated over time. People recalled incidents where Emily isolated John from his loved ones, slowly cutting off his support system. Some described moments when Emily's charming facade slipped, revealing anger and cruelty beneath. It became clear that Emily's need for control extended far beyond normal relationship dynamics. As investigators delved into Emily's past, they uncovered a troubling history. Previous relationships showed similar patterns of manipulation and abuse. Former partners described feeling trapped and powerless, much like John. There were whispers of emotional cruelty, but no prior allegations of physical harm. Emily had perfected the art of hiding her true nature, leaving little evidence behind. The motive behind Emily's actions became increasingly clear. She wanted to erase John from her life completely, financially, emotionally, and physically. By burying him alive, she intended to eliminate him without leaving obvious signs of murder. The life insurance policies would provide her with a large payout, and controlling the narrative as a grieving widow gave her a cover story. Yet, the case took a darker twist as more psychological evaluations were conducted. Experts suggested Emily exhibited traits of a sociopath, charming, manipulative, and lacking empathy. Her ability to plan and carry out such a horrific crime without remorse shocked everyone. The perfect wife was, in reality, a cold and calculating predator. This revelation sent shockwaves through the community and beyond. People struggled to reconcile the image of the smiling, polite woman they had known with the monster she truly was. It raised uncomfortable questions about how well anyone could really know the people closest to them. Emily's actions were not just a betrayal of her husband, but a violation of trust on many levels. She had destroyed a life, shattered a family, and traumatized a neighborhood. The investigation exposed the darkness hidden beneath ordinary appearances, shining a light on the dangers of unchecked control and deceit. As the evidence mounted, Emily's confidence began to crumble. The web of lies she had spun was unraveling, and the reality of her crimes was becoming impossible to deny. The case was moving toward a dramatic conclusion, but the scars left behind would last much longer. The dark motives behind this chilling crime revealed a deeper truth about human nature, the capacity for evil to hide in plain sight, behind a mask of normalcy and charm. Emily's story became a grim warning that sometimes, the greatest dangers are those closest to us, concealed beneath the smiles we trust the most. Emily's arrest marked the beginning of a tense and dramatic trial that gripped the nation. The courtroom was filled with reporters, family members, and those who followed the case closely, all eager to see justice served. The prosecution laid out the chilling details uncovered during the investigation: Emily's calculated planning, the hidden basement chamber, and the financial schemes designed to benefit from John's disappearance. Every piece of evidence painted a picture of cold cruelty and deception. John, though physically and emotionally scarred, testified bravely. His survival against all odds was a testament to human endurance and willpower. The time he spent trapped underground had left lasting damage. He suffered from respiratory issues and trauma that would affect him for years. But despite the pain, he stood strong to ensure that the truth was heard. His courage inspired many, turning him into a symbol of hope for victims of abuse and control. The defense tried to portray Emily as a misunderstood woman under extreme stress, but the overwhelming evidence made their arguments weak. Witnesses from Emily's past relationships recounted similar patterns of manipulation and control, reinforcing the prosecution's claim that this was not a one-time lapse, but a dangerous personality trait. Psychological experts testified about Emily's sociopathic tendencies, explaining how she was capable of carrying out such a horrific crime without remorse. As the trial progressed, more shocking details emerged about Emily's calculated efforts to cover her tracks. She had tampered with surveillance footage, lied to investigators, and created false narratives to mislead the police. The jury saw through these attempts, recognizing the lengths she went to in order to hide her crime. The community's reaction was one of outrage and sorrow. People struggled to process the betrayal of trust and the depth of Emily's evil. Fundraisers were organized to help John recover and rebuild his life. Support groups formed to raise awareness about domestic abuse, emphasizing the importance of recognizing warning signs before it's too late. The case became a catalyst for conversations about control, manipulation, and the hidden horrors some endure behind closed doors. When the verdict finally came, Emily was found guilty on multiple counts, including attempted murder, kidnapping, and fraud. The judge sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The decision was met with relief and a sense of closure for those affected by the crime. Emily's fate served as a stark reminder that justice, though sometimes delayed, can prevail against even the darkest evil. John's journey did not end with the trial. Determined to heal and help others, he became an advocate for survivors of abuse. He spoke openly about his experience, breaking the silence that often surrounds domestic violence. His story inspired many to come forward, seek help, and fight for their own safety. The chilling case of the evil wife who buried her husband alive remains a haunting example of how appearances can deceive. It exposed the terrifying reality that sometimes the greatest threat comes from those we trust the most. John's survival and Emily's conviction stand as powerful testaments to resilience and the pursuit of justice. Though the physical wounds may heal, the emotional scars linger. This story leaves a lasting warning. Beneath the surface of ordinary life, dark secrets can hide, and vigilance is needed to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The nightmare may be over, but its lessons will never be forgotten.